Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce, and I've got another installment of Why You Should Not Read, my fake series on the Stormlight archive. All right, I've got some reasons why you should not read the Words of Radiance. Words of Radiance, sorry I put a "the" in it, don't know why. It is just Words of Radiance. I've got some reasons for it, but it is, just like my last video, complete bait and switch. But I will give you some reasons why not to, even though I love this book very much. First off, this book is 1,080 pages. That is a lot to commit to. This is book 2 of a 10-book series, and so far they've been at least 1,000 pages in hardcover. This isn't even talking about the 1,200 to 1,300 pages mass market paperback. So you're talking about a huge investment. And you better like it, right, if it's that much. Brandon Sanderson announced just very recently that book 5 is getting pushed back to 2024, probably the fall of 2024. And let's be honest, Sanderson he's pulling a full-on George R. R. Martin right now, in that he is focusing on his TV and movie deals with his books and not necessarily on writing the books like we've gotten so spoiled and used to as fans, okay? Now let's be honest, Shallan was not everyone's favorite character in the Way of Kings, and she's quite a bit of the focus on here. We go way back into her past, her relationships with her brothers, her what's going on before she ends up where she's at the beginning of the Way of Kings. And if you didn't like her, I don't know. I thought she does quite a bit of a transition here. But if you're not a fan of Shallan, you may have a harder time with this book because it's very much focused on her. I personally loved her very much and thought her kind of transitioning and growing into this more adult person was actually pretty fascinating and fun to watch. I'll get into a spoiler section as to why other things are good. Finally, in why you should not read I keep putting an ad. Why you should not read Words of Radiance. It's because apparently this book is very delicious to puppies, and therefore they will eat it if you stupidly leave your beautiful book out for a puppy to be able to eat. And what's worse is that this was my review copy I received back when this was published, back in 2014. And this is what I've been reduced to. So this was rough. This was about halfway through. My puppy ate my book. And that's why I dress it up with the cover. Let's just say, luckily I love my puppy and dogs that much that, there really wasn't anything I could do. It was all my fault. But man, was that frustrating to see. This is the first book he went to, and I thought I kept it high enough, and apparently I did not. So that's why you shouldn't read Words of Radiance. But as we all know, this is what I did on my last Stormlight archive review for the Way of Kings. This was a whole bait and switch, but I've been a little more honest and upfront on this one. I loved Words of Radiance. I thought it was even better than the Way of Kings. There's so many things about this that I loved, and I've already started talking about this. So I'm going to jump into why you should read Words of Radiance, because that's really why we're here. And I've got a couple reasons for you to read them. To read this, some in the non-spoiler section and some I'll do a quick little spoiler section and the things that I really enjoyed. But first of all, non-spoiler, like I said, and maybe, it's your level of spoilers, I guess. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say there is a focus on Shallan, and she gets some good page time in this. But it's cool. We have a lot more in this book, interactions between the characters that we've grown to love, whereas in Way of Kings, they were quite separated, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. You did have at the very end of Way of Kings a coming together of Kaladin and Dalinar, at least to some degree, so they've kind of gotten close together. and now we're kind of seeing in Words of Radiance a little more of that. What I did like also is we get a little more I like that these interludes, they kind of explore this whole world. It's really interesting. Not to mention more Seth and kind of understanding where he's coming from and why he is the way he is with this whole gotta do things that my master's telling me to do. And for me, just like, man, that's so sad. It pains me to look at this book. Just like in Way of Kings, it's just, for some reason, this 1,000-pager, it reads so much quicker, so much easier, and even though I should be taken aback by that, it really, the page count really doesn't mean the same that it might mean in another series. For me, it's fine and it's no big deal because it's just the pages fly by, and you can do 50 pages in a sitting. And for me, that's actually a lot with the small amount of time that I have. And so then sleep suffers. So that should be another reason why you should not read this book if you like sleep that much. All right. And then even more so as we kind of get in Way of Kings, we start exploring some of the magic a little bit. Kaladin's kind of getting into it a little bit. Words of Radiance really gets you into that magic and exploring it more and kind of seeing, some of your favorites jump to the top. All right, I'll jump to a quick spoiler section, so I'll put some timestamp right here to tell you when to come back to. But so we'll jump into that 3, 2, 1. What I really liked here, a couple things, was really the focus on the magic and Shallan really exploring her talents with pattern and using pattern, and not only her specific area of light weaving and her kind of ability not only to kind of change her own appearance but also to utilize her spren in pattern, and that he can then kind of do his own, she can do his illusions using him and utilizing him. So it's really interesting. I really liked seeing this. The interaction between her and Kaladin when they fall into the chasm, and it's just great that they each think that they must have somehow saved the other with their spren and just still not know about each other, and then suddenly Kaladin finds himself on top of himself. Anyway, it's just so cool, like how that is utilized and really interesting, and then both kind of wanting to kind of be the one, like, hey, I'm the one with the power. I've got to be here to save the day, right? So I really liked that interplay. Kaladin got a little broodier in this book, and I had seen the memes about just Kaladin kind of being so broody and depressed and whatnot. And definitely it came to the forefront in this book. I just didn't feel like, he's kind of mopey a little bit in Way of Kings, but you kind of see some glimpses of, okay, he's got leadership. The juxtaposition of the two things just didn't make sense, but this is definitely made more sense in this book, and him especially getting punished by the king, by Dalinar, for trying to finally approach and bring some justice as to what happened with Amaram. And that, again, is very interesting, that pulling him into this and knowing that he's close with Dalinar, which he would be, but he's such a fake, he's so fake on the outside. I still kind of, I don't know, just I know, I guess, and that's part of the interesting things of this whole huge conspiracy that's kind of undercutting things, and have Taravangian, the king of Kharbranth, and it's just interesting, like some of his genius days, some of his not so genius days, and just like what is going on here, and he created this whole scheme that people are following now, and it comes a lot of what they're doing is just simply evil, and it's kind of this Machiavellian, I guess the end, do the ends justify the means? Is that really the case here? And is it going to end up benefiting the good guys anyway in the end? Possibly. So anyway, it's just this interesting thing that really we didn't know hardly anything about in Way of Kings, and then you get this huge reveals here about what's really going on and what all these Ghost Bloods and all these other factions are doing now. Man, I'm moving around too much. Kind of convening on the Shattered Plains. And so it just really, and then I have to say the biggest spoiler, and hopefully you are not here for spoilers at this point, but holy cow, Adeline just outright killing Sadeas. I just, man, does it make me a bad person that I just cheered at that moment when Adeline's just like, I'm not like my father. I'm my own guy, and I'm not going to stand for this. Because that is, but it's the same kind of mentality that you have behind Taravangian, what he's doing, right? Do the ends justify the means? And then you're going, all right, well, but do the ends when it's killing someone who is going to get, well, already has provably gotten thousands of people killed, and then is already starting in on it again to try to get more people killed. Is it worth killing that one person? Is his more justified than what Taravangian's doing? Is it? I mean, the Taravangian thinks he's saving the world, and so just really, I love, Sanderson's big on, he doesn't have to answer these questions. He just has to pose them. And it's really great. And then just tell the story. Here's how it's going to be in a satisfying way. And so I just thought Words of Radiance was excellently done. It was just wonderful. And I guess we're out of the spoiler section, but this is just an excellent book. I cannot recommend this series enough, even though we still have 6 more books to go. We have a delayed 5th book. I'm already jumping into Edge Dancer, and follows a character from Words of Radiance, and apparently has some things that happen that you need to know going into Oathbringer, but it's not like vital. But anyway, just really what a cool series, what a fun series, just a magical, huge series, and I cannot get enough of it. I just read my eyes out when it comes to these books, and my son is 12. I gave them to him, and it took a little coaxing. And then suddenly Brandon Sanderson was by far his favorite author of all time. He blazed through and has already read all of the Stormlight Archive, plus Mistborn, plus you name it. He's probably read it. And so just makes me so happy as a father to just be able to share this with my kids. And so hopefully I just got to get my girls on it now too. And so anyway, all that, having said all that, I'm definitely giving Words of Radiance 10 out of 10 shelves. It gets all the shelves. It doesn't even have to center the shelves. So if you are liking this kind of thing, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps that out a lot and helps me just make more of these and keep going. And I love doing this so much. So please join in the community. I have a Discord I need to be more active on, but I do have one technically. I don't know about you, but I have a harder time finding people in real life, IRL, right, as the kids these days say, to just talk, one of my favorite things in the world, which is fantasy, science fiction, and horror. So anyway, and reading those things. So thank you for everything, and we will catch you later. Bye.